and a welcome back to Mike London.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank President Castine, Craig Littlepage, and John Oliver, and all those who made this opportunity possible. I'd also like to thank Richmond President Dr. Ed Ayers and Athletic Director Jim Miller for believing in me and giving me an opportunity to be a head coach at my alma mater. And then particularly, and most important, is to thank my family, which is here right now, my wife Regina, my daughter Tyson, Jason, Madison, and Corbin. A lot of people made this possible, but I want to tell you something. I could not have done it without the help of many, many, many coaches, players, and community. It's one thing to, to talk about being a coach, but it's also another thing to really get involved with your players, get involved with the community, and get involved with whatever the university's mission is. And I'm blessed and I'm honored to be back involved with a university that I have a familiar background with. I will make winning a priority, but also by doing it the right way and also making sure that it's okay to embrace the academic qualifications and expectations here at the university. It's okay to expect great things out of its athletic department, and particularly football. It's okay to attract those young men out there that want the best of both world opportunities, great academics, and a chance to compete and play for championships. That's all I know. The different places that I've been, from Richmond to William & Mary to UVA at Boston College, those are the type of schools that speak about those qualities and characteristics. Those are the type of young men that I'll make sure that the university alumni and people involved know that we're going to bring those type of young men into this program. But I want everyone to know that I can't do this by myself. I need the help of everyone here. I need the help of the fans out there, the students, the professors. I need the help of the community, the administration, coaches, and players. I need the help of everyone. And you try to do that, and you look to people that can help you by giving you the resources. And I believe that in talking to President Castine and Craig, that I'll have the opportunity to do that. I always talk about a couple things here. The rules of the program as they've been when I was at Richmond they're three, they're simple. Go to class. Because I think when a young man does that, he takes an interest in his own opportunity to become an educated man, that it becomes in his best interest that when he gains and earns a degree from this great university, that it'll stand out and amongst some of the best in this country. Show class. Show class in everything you do. Show class in humility and victory, and show class in adversity and defeat. And then the last is to treat people with dignity and respect. That's what you're supposed to do. Those are the things I think are foundations of not just a football program, for families, for organizations, or for whatever it may be. I also want to make sure I reach out and embrace the Virginia football alum. my arms are wide open to you guys. Come on back home. I want to make sure that people feel that, that they're welcome, that what they do is valued, and this is a partnership. It's been a dream of mine to have an opportunity to be at a major college, and in particularly having an opportunity to be here at an ACC school, BCS school, a school that can win, a school that's produced some great, great players here. Mr. Bill Dudley, some great coaches, Mr. George Welsh, some great people, Chris Long, Sean Moore, Chris Slade. I could go on and on and on, and I'd be remiss in not remembering everybody's names, or mentioning everybody's names, but this is a special place. Special people have walked the grounds here. And it's a privilege and honor to be here as a head coach that hopefully can provide some energy, some passion, get involved with what's going on in these guys' lives, get involved in the community. Because you not only get me, you get my family. You get all of us. All 4 of them, and then 3 more, so all 7 of us. But it's a great opportunity to be here, and I'm so thankful to be given this privilege. I'm a caretaker and I'm a servant because I serve the student athletes in which I'm in charge of, and the coaches and their families. I'm a caretaker of this university's reputation in the academic and athletic arenas. And that's a challenge I'm looking forward to. Thank you.
We'll start with questions. I would appreciate if media could identify themselves the first time through. We'll go back and forth between sides of the room. Jerry.
Mike, Jerry Ratcliffe, Daily Progress. Welcome home.
Hi, Jerry.
Can you just address what you will do, since it's been kind of a quick transition, what are your immediate plans as far as putting together a staff and reaching out and trying to reconnect with high school coaches around the state?
Well, one of the things in talking, I know I need to reach out to the athletic community here. Those are the administrators on the academic side, athletic side, to sit down and talk to them about what my plans, goals, and visions are. And then most immediately after this particular meeting, to sit and talk to the players, because that's what it's about. It's about them. They're in exams right now, and pretty soon they'll be leaving to go home for the holidays. So I want to make sure I connect with them and make sure that we're all on the same page prior to them leaving. And I think that, as you alluded to make sure that I am a product of, and I'll use it as the kids say, 757. And to make sure we reconnect with the high school area coaches here in the state of Virginia. This is a great place. My coaching stints have allowed me to recruit every area of this state. And I know we've got to do a better job in recruiting the in-state players, but we'll do that, because I think I want the high school coaches to know that if Virginia hasn't been there, we'll be there. And if you have a player that you want to recommend to us, then we'll evaluate and we'll listen.
Can you address the staff as well?
The staff is ongoing now. There's some people that are still playing, and some people that still have seasons going on. There's some that I'll bring with me, and there's some here that I'll have to talk about in terms of whether to retain or not. But it's an ongoing process, and I want to make sure that I get the right individual, the right men of honor and integrity, guys who are going to do it the right way, be a reflection of myself. If you see me, you see them. If you know me, you know them. So I want to make sure I do it right and take my time in fulfilling that. Thank you.
Mike, John O'Connor from the Richmond paper. Could you address just the last 3 or 4 days in your life and the whirlwind it's been? And if I could ask you to elaborate on who you might bring with you from the Richmond staff.
Well, I can tell you in the last question, I'm working on that. There's some obligations I need to make sure that are fulfilled there. There's some responsibilities there before I say anything. The last couple of days have been it's been a whirlwind. You know, the euphoria of making the playoffs in FCS, having a home game, winning that first one, and then playing a perennial power at App State, going up in the game with 3 minutes left, and then losing basically the last seconds. And then getting the call and being informed that, you know, Virginia was interested in me being their head coach. Back to being euphoric again. And then going from that, John, to, you know, the heavy felt task of having to tell players at Richmond that I was leaving. I mean, that was a tough thing to do, to tell my Richmond family that I was leaving. But hopefully most of them understand that, you know, that this is a great decision for myself and my family, and it's a move that we're looking forward to. Thank you.
Doug Dowdy from the Roanoke Times. Mike, this is, I believe, you're starting your third stint here. Is this a place where you could stay for a long time?
The community here in Charlottesville is unbelievable. You're right. You know, I came here as a young assistant and then left. You know, went to the NFL, came back, and then left, you know, to be a head coach. And now I'm back again. So it's a great place to raise a family. In the coaching profession, you can't be at too many places where your extended family, particularly my mother and father, my wife's mother, and relatives live. It's one of those places that's a special place because there's so many things. My daughter went to school here. My brother played here. I know a lot of people here. And it's a fit. It's a perfect fit for me.
Mike, David Teal with the Daily Press.
Dave.
Good afternoon, sir. During your previous stays here, you've been involved in some terrific seasons. You've observed the last couple of years as the program has struggled. What have been your observations? What are the common threads when Virginia's program has thrived, and what does it need to do now? What are your main challenges?
Well, in any situation, it's all about the players that are playing for you. And everyone that knows me knows that I'm a big relationship guy, and I think that's a critical element in any team, in any organization, in any relationship. And I just know what I would do is to make sure that I have a relationship with the players that will allow them to knock on my door and come in anytime they want. Because I think if I know what's going on with them, and they know that I have their best interest at heart, then I think it transcends sometimes some on-the-field issues. People don't care about how much you know until they know about how much you care. I think that's very important. So that's my approach, and I'm hoping that that will result. I know it doesn't all of a sudden just result in blocking and tackling, but I think part of that is dealing with the individual first in order to bring out the best in their efforts and abilities.
Mike, Lane Casadante, CBS in Richmond. Along those same lines, when you came to Richmond, you inherited a program that had a couple of winning seasons and some success. Here, you were in a different situation. Has there been anything in your resume that can prepare you personally for the differences between taking over two programs that are in different situations?
Well, you know, I've been in the course of my career, I've been in situations different like that. When I went to Boston College, it was a situation where they lost and had an opportunity to get involved with a former UVA coach, Tom O'Brien, there and turn the program around there. So there is a reference point that I have in terms of dealing with that. But again, it all goes back to making sure that you recruit the type of player that you need to recruit, that you provide a staff that can develop those players, you know, both athletically and then personally, and then provide a model for them in terms of the expected types of behavior, your schemes and systems that you're going to employ, and then be consistent with your message. And if you do that, then I believe that you can move a team forward. And those are the things I'm looking forward to do here at Virginia.
Hey, Mike. Jeff White, VirginiaSports.com. You were a defensive coach here, and the defenses generally have played well in recent years. The offenses have struggled more. How would you characterize your offensive philosophy as a coach?
Score fast and as often as you can. How about that? Is that a good answer? I think you have to utilize your playmakers. You have to find and identify who those guys are, and then do your best to get the ball into their hands. I think there are several positions that are key. Obviously, the guy that handles the ball 100% of the time, which is the quarterback, and then the guy that runs the ball, and then the receivers that the quarterback throws to. So I think in evaluating talent, particularly those players that can make a one-play difference, is critical. And so we will look to begin evaluating the talent and then addressing the needs through recruiting.
Hey, Mike, Zach Berman from the Washington Post. In your opening statement, you spoke about the academics. What's unique about the academic situation here, and is it, and from your background at those other schools, how has that helped you?
Well, what's unique is the type of young man that the school looks for, the type of the profile of the young man, his academic accomplishments in high school. And a lot of it suggests that his ability to do well here. I think that when you're motivated academically, when you come from a background in which your transcripts demonstrates academic performance, that it spills over into athletic performance. Now, I have to do a good job of making sure that I provide an atmosphere that's conducive to learning, that guys want to get a degree, and provide them with, the support systems that are going to help them do that. Because I find that if players are motivated not only academically, it'll spill over into athletics. Right now, it's another way around thing, okay? And it needs to be motivated academically, because then you'll see those attitudes transcend over into the football field. Thanks.
Hi, Coach London. Welcome back to Charlottesville.
Thank you.
Marty Hutloff from NBC 29. Coach, you spent 6 years as an assistant under Al Groh. How are you similar? How are you different? Your style's different.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for Coach Groh. He allowed me to grow within this system, this university. But I'm my own man. I'm my own person. And as I said before, I'm a big relationship guy. And I think that my style is a style that may be different from a lot of people's style. But I think that, and I go back to what I said before, I think if the players and the head coach have a relationship that's really special, or that we're both on the same page in terms of understanding the expectations in the classroom and on the field, then I think that makes for something special. So I'm looking to provide my own mark and do my own things and make my own way.
Coach Adam Gottschalk from WKAV in Charlottesville. Can you take me back to 9 years ago, how the process first went? When did you apply for the job? Did Coach Groh find you? And what were your impressions of UVA before you ever coached here?
I had done a series of internships for the NFL with the New York Jets. And the first time Coach Groh was the linebackers coach, I worked with him. The second year that I went back, he was the head coach at that time. Met him at that particular time. I didn't know that later on that he would become the head coach here. And so that's how that started. Plus, I'd been here in the state of Virginia at Richmond and at William & Mary, and I think it just made good sense, from his standpoint, hopefully, to bring a Virginia guy back.
Mike, you've been mentioned in connection with this job since before it came open. How difficult was it to shelter yourself from all those discussions and even think about it yourself?
I'm human like everybody, and of course you hear the speculations, the hypotheses, all those things like that. But as the season's going on, my main and my focus and my priority is to the players at Richmond, to my staff. And although internally you may think about things, externally I want to make sure that the players got the message about all that matters is what happens with the Richmond family. So I'm being human in answering that question, Doug, but that's the truth.
Mike Henkers with AP. Can you just kind of talk about your evolution as a coach and even before that, from a Richmond City detective to sitting here as a coach of an ACC school and kind of the second part of that, I think you're the second African-American head coach at a BCS school and kind of what that means to you.
And when you look back at it, when I look at kind of the career path, when I left Richmond as a player, I was a free agent with the Cowboys, and very shortly after that got released. I'd always wanted to be a Secret Service agent. I used to watch the president in the background, and the guy standing behind him had the earplugs in their ear. And one particular time I saw a guy move. They weren't supposed to move, but I saw him move, and hanging from his coat was a large machine gun. And I said, I don't know what he does, but I want to do what he does. So I went the route of, before you get into at that time, getting into the law enforcement with the U.S. Marshals or Secret Service, you had to have law enforcement experience. And at that time, I joined the Richmond Police Department. After a couple of years there and a near brush with death at one time, I decided that maybe coaching is a good thing to do, So I got into coaching, fairly young, and been in, as I said, a couple of different places. And what I learned, Hank, is the fact that, and this is kind of strange, but being a police officer, and I talk about the relationship part, is you can diffuse so many situations by communicating with people. If you have an opportunity to talk to people about whatever issues may be going on, you can solve or at least come up with solutions. What happens sometimes, you're so quick to jump to conclusions or not hear someone out, and that's what causes problems. So what I learned as a police officer is, and that's why I said of the 3 rules, treat people with dignity and respect. That's one of them. That's what I learned being a police officer in situations where it can get out of hand, or you can diffuse it. And so I've learned over my coaching career that although I'm a passionate and energetic guy, that having an opportunity or giving players an ear to express themselves, as long as it's done in a respectful manner, then we can be on the same page and we can come to some sort of resolution. Hope that answers your question.
Coach, Mark Davis, CBS 19, welcome back.
Mark, where are you at?
I'm right back here.
Okay.
You became known for your energy here that you showed on the sidelines. Is that something when you were at Richmond as a head coach you saw filtered down to your players, and is that kind of a staple of a Mike London coach thing? And I'll follow that up by asking, what are the staples of Mike London coach team?
Well, you'd have to ask my mother, May London, because she said when I was 6 years old I wore out the tires on my tricycle. So that's where the energy comes from. I'm always passionate and energetic about what I do. I mean, a lot of you maybe have heard or know about the story of my daughter Tyson, who's here today, and my opportunity to take my bone marrow and give it to her, which saved her life. And to me, why wouldn't you be passionate and energetic about an opportunity to do that? Not too many people have opportunities to do that. And when the parent can be a donor to their child and save their child's life, man, I owe a lot of things to a lot of people. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I'm proud of it. I was telling Coach Littlepage, we won the championship, I was jumping up and down with the players, and somebody said, Coach, you got to act like you've been there. Well, that's just it. I haven't been there, And so hopefully I can still keep bringing that passion and energy and act like I haven't been there.
Grant Kittleson, WDBJ TV out of Roanoke. You may have thought you're ready for this job 2 years ago, but how much did you learn your 2 years as a head coach that you're like, wow, there's a lot more to being a head coach than I ever thought?
I have a tremendous amount of respect for all head coaches. You know, I've been a long-time assistant, and when you sit in this chair now, you make a lot of tough decisions. When you sit in this chair, you are very visible. You are very accountable for what you say, what you do. You're never off the record, you know, for you guys out there. And I understand that. I understand the obligations and the responsibilities of this position. I actually relish and look forward to representing this university in the communities, on the road, at home, to the fan base, to the football alumni, to the players, or whoever it may be. But you learn a lot of things. You make a lot of tough decisions. You pray for wisdom and discernment and hope you do the right things.
Hi, Coach. Greg Burton, ESPN 950 in Richmond. Hey, Coach, back here.
Hey, Greg, how you
What's up? Thanks for teaching me how to spell machine. Appreciate that. And you're scheduled to play Richmond next year. Will that game remain on the schedule? And if so, can you imagine what that would be like to play the Spiders right out of the chute?
I can't speak to whether it remain on the schedule or not, but, you know, last year this time, if you would have asked me about if I'd be sitting right here, you know, with the schedule as it was, I never would have even thought about it. But I'm sure as when we played them when I left here and went to Richmond, how emotional that would be. I'm sure it would be the same way now the other way around. Thanks, Greg.
Hey, Mike, Al had a lot of talented assistants during his tenure, yourself included. He also had a lot of staff turnover. Is it important to have continuity on a college football staff, or can you win without it?
That's a great question, Jeff. I think now having been around here a little bit and seeing different staffs, and I think it's important to have cohesion and continuity in a staff, because when you have cohesion and continuity and you talk about the consistency in the actions of the players, if the players see cohesion and continuity, then they benefit from it, and then altogether the whole entire program benefits from it. So I'd say yes to your question.
Craig, can I give Mike a breath for a minute and ask you one? It's two
Thank
parts.
you, John.
My pleasure. Mike had tremendous success at the FCS level. Speaks for itself. I wonder if that caused you hesitation, though, because you're hiring a guy who doesn't have FBS head coaching experience. And the second part is because the players Mike inherited were very good, not many of the fellows, if any of the players he signed, have played yet. Were either of those things causes for hesitation in your decision-making process? No. You elaborate?
Yeah. I was teasing you. No, I and we at the university have had the benefit of seeing Mike over a long period of time, knowing his abilities, knowing his character, knowing what kind of coach he is, knowing how he feels about the university, how he feels about the players. The question of whether there was any hesitation, no. And there are ample examples of coaches that have made the move from assistant coach to head coach, from offensive or defensive coordinator to head coach. If a person has the instincts of a leader and knows the game and feels as deeply and cares as much as Mike does, cause no hesitation at all. Part two.
Regarding the players that he signed, virtually none of them played because those ahead of him played so well. Did that cause any hesitation that fellows he signed haven't seen the field yet? It's tough to tell, tough to make a judgment.
No, I think the benefit is that he has shown an ability to figure out the right combinations of people and where they need to play. There was a high school coach that I had an opportunity to speak with who talked about Mike's abilities to recruit and to relate, and how much he thought that the high school coaching community would respond to Mike as the head coach, his ability to put a staff together that could similarly be successful recruiting. So I think in every regard, I was satisfied, and I did not have any hesitation in any way.
This question is for Coach London. Kyle Hanai with the ESPN 840 station here in Charlottesville. What makes you such a great communicator so you can go into that young man's home, talk to his parents, and say, I'm going to bring you to the University of Virginia so you don't go to North Carolina, West Virginia, other ACC schools, and most importantly, when you look at the top 30 kids in the state on Rivals or Scout, 13 of those are going to Virginia Tech. What makes them come here instead of there to get this fan base back to this Virginia team?
Well, I think it goes back to the relationship part, number one, that I am a Virginia product from elementary school on up to college. I think that we have to recapture the state of Virginia, make ourselves accessible to the coaches of Virginia, the high school coaches particularly. Go into those schools and then go into the communities also. I think that's critical, because you're right. A lot of young kids grow up seeing somebody that the boys clubs or the local organizations, they grow up and they want to be just like so-and-so. Well, so-and-so is at that other school. And unless you get into those communities and do things, there are a number of things you can do with the coaches in those communities, the Pee Wee League coaches, those individuals that have an influence on those young men. Unless you show that you have an interest in going into their community, then why would they have an interest in coming to yours? So I think that's important. And then, as you say, the type of people that you hire. And the biggest thing is, I go back to what I said before about being able to have relationships, because people don't care about how much you know until they know about how much you care. So if you're in those schools, if you're in those communities, and people see that you have an interest, then they'll come. They'll come, because what they'll see is they'll see the real person. When you say, come to my game or come to my venue, if you haven't been to theirs, if you haven't been in their communities, then why would they come to yours? So there's a lot of work to do, but we'll be hard at work in making sure we get that corrected.
For Craig, how would you describe your past 24, 48 hours? And
Where's the question? Okay, there you go. I'm sorry, Zach.
Your past 48 on 24 hours, how would you describe the process since Richmond lost the other night, and then how early in the coach searching process did you identify Mike as the guy?
I was over the weekend in Tampa at the ACC championship game, so I was out of town for the previous 3 or 4 days. Upon landing sometime yesterday mid-morning, I placed a call to seek permission. Again, this is a situation where, having known this gentleman and having worked alongside of him, having respected him as a coach and a person, there wasn't a lot of interviewing that had to be done, if you will. But certainly the feeling that this was moving in a direction that was mutually beneficial. We had an interest. Coach London seemed to have an interest. So it was a matter of just kind of working through all the different questions of can we do this? How quickly can we do this? What are the touch points? Who are the people that we need to bounce questions off of? Mike needed time, obviously, to kind of process everything because it was happening and unfolding so quickly. So there were a lot of very anxious hours as we worked through maybe the mid-morning to late afternoon stage on Sunday. Mike has always been somebody that has been highly regarded nationally. I can say that having participated in any number of different conferences and discussions with other athletics directors, conference commissioners, and many times we have meetings at which we talk about the talented people that are coming up through the pipeline, if you will. And I know for the last 4 or 5 years that Mike is someone whose name was on the minds of many athletics directors and conference commissioners. So the fact that he's been here, and we've been blessed to know his work in the 2 stints that he was here at the university, to hear others talk about him that have had long success in college football, that know the kinds of things that make successful college coaches. Mike was always on that short list of coaches. So as soon as we knew that we were going to be in the market to look at candidates, Mike was going to be right at the top of that list. We just wanted to make sure that it was something that was going to be a benefit to both parties. And the interesting thing was, in a meeting that John Oliver and I had with our football team a week ago Sunday, we talked about our expectations of them for the next couple of weeks. Until that time, we were able to appoint a head coach. And at the end of kind of us telling them what we needed from them in terms of their commitment academically, their commitment to make sure that they had their houses in order, get their injuries treated, et cetera, we asked questions about what they thought we should be looking for. And as the comments were being made by the players, and this was over the course of maybe 30 minutes, I remember thinking in my head, and I was making eye contact with John, who was in the back of the room, as they started to go through this list. It was almost like we were checking off the person seated to my right. So again, that's a long-winded way of getting to the point that he's somebody that for a long time has been on my mind. He probably doesn't know this, but there have been a lot of athletic directors who had asked me about him, and I was hoping that they wouldn't hire him for the hope that maybe one day we'd have this sort of opportunity. But his time at the University of Virginia, I think, at the University of Richmond, I think has served him well. He's ready for this. We're ready for it. I know that our players are ready for it, our former players, and there's so many different stakeholders that I think have applauded this decision and Mike's decision to be with us at the University of Virginia.
On this side, thank you. When you're done, you give the take.
Mike, one quick one, follow-up on Jeff's. Your assistant coaches, will they have voices and be able to talk to us?
Yes.
When you were a position coach and you had a smaller group of guys to kind of be in charge of, and as you kind of climbed up and got to Richmond, the relationship you talk about having with your players, I would assume, gets more and more challenging as you have more and more players. How much different or more difficult was it at Richmond when you had 90 players than it was when you had 15? And how much more difficult do you expect it to be when you have 115 instead of,
Well, I don't look at it as being much more difficult. I think I just have to make myself much more accessible. It's a great thing, Hank. I mean, I could tell you stories about players who have tragic situations in their lives or personal lives that after you develop that closeness, that they're willing to open the door, so to speak, to what their issues may be. And then by doing that, then it provides an opportunity for you not to fix it, but to at least provide an avenue where they can go get an answer. And when they get that answer, which addresses the issue that they have, they'll run through a wall for you. And I think that's the key sometimes, that outside of X's and O's, all that other stuff we're talking about, that it's worth it to me to take the time to invest in individuals. So being accessible would be the only issue, not the numbers and all that. And I just need to make sure that I make myself accessible.
Jerry,
Mike, just following up a little bit about what Craig said about things happening so quickly on Sunday. Was it automatic once he talked to you, approached you about the job, that you would take it, or did you have to do some soul searching? And what questions might have you presented to Craig that eased your mind into convincing you should take this job?
Well, I have a good agent named Dennis Cordell that's right there. That wasn't automatic. He said, "Don't jump on anything. You got some other opportunities here too." But I knew that once the offer was made, and then just the familiarity of this place. I wasn't in to being a head coach at Richmond to go to school X, Y, and Z out in the West Coast or whatever. I could have been perfectly happy to stay at my alma mater. It's just that I'd been here and spent 6 years of my life here, and this is a fit. So when the opportunity came about, then it made the decision easy.
Hey, Mike. Dave Fairbank with the Daily Press.
Dave, where's your earring?
It's over here.
Okay.
It's over here. Hey, you wouldn't be sitting here if the program hadn't experienced some difficulties and struggles, and recent history says that the ceiling here is 8 or 9 wins. Why can this place win championships in your mind?
I think I know it has the facilities to compete for young men's attention. I know it has the opportunity for those who are looking for, again, I go back to the best of both world opportunities. I mean, if you just want to play football and, okay, I think I might get an education, this is probably not the place for you. If you just want to get a great education and I think I'll play a little football, this is probably not the place for you. But if you want the best of both world opportunities, this is the place for you. You'll have a head coach that's going to foster an environment that's conducive to you achieving academically, and make sure that you get the type of coaching and have a relationship that's going to be able to at least help you achieve athletically also. So that's what I think.
Jay Jenkins from the Progress Coach right here.
Hey, Jay.
Do you have a feel for how much talent you're inheriting? And second part, is that an ace up the sleeve with Poindexter on your staff when you take over?
I haven't yet to have had a chance to look at tape, film, and evaluate players, and as I said, that'll be a priority here because we're right in the middle of recruiting. There are young men that have committed to the school already. I need to make sure I reach out and connect with them, reconnect. And speaking on Anthony's behalf, I mean, I've known Anthony for a long time. As I said, my brother Paul played with him. And someone asked a question about energetic and passionate. I mean, that's the word. When you look at that word, that's Anthony in the dictionary right there, his picture. So having guys like that, on the staff, and particularly he has a Virginia tie to him, was a great player here. But having guys like that, individuals that players love, I think is important. And as I said, I'm hoping to put a staff together that players will feel confident in and come to respect and admire their position coaches as well.
Thank you.
Craig, speaking of staff, according to a recent survey of 2009 salaries, Virginia, among public institutions, ranked last in the ACC in assistants compensation. Granted, that might have been skewed because Coach Grove didn't have a defensive coordinator, but is Virginia committed to upgrading salaries for staff to make the coach's job a little easier in terms of recruiting assistants.
Right. I think among all the things that a coach would have to consider before accepting a position is an understanding that this is what I need in terms of the types of people, and this is what I'm going to need to attract those types of people. And I believe that I can speak for Mike in saying that he's been satisfied that the commitment will be made to allow him the ability to attract a top-performing assistant coaching staff.
I would agree with that.
Will the compensation go up from the levels, present levels?
I would assume that it would. A lot of it depends on specifically who the people are eventually. But the idea is that we will be stepping up, if you will.
We'll go over here to Paul. We're going to take a few more questions. Paul and Doug, Mark, and Jeff.
Coach Paul Woody from the Times-Dispatch. A moment ago, Hank had asked you about the significance of being an African-American coach at the BCS level, and we kind of got sidetracked with your machine gun story, which was a lot of fun. But could you elaborate on the significance of that to you? And also, you mentioned earlier you'd been assured from President Castine and Craig Littlepage you would have the resources to be successful. Could you elaborate on that?
It's a tremendous honor to be, I guess, recognized as one of the very few in this country in a day and age where people are talking about more diversity, in particular BCS schools. But I always want to be made known that hire me because I'm the best candidate. That's what I want to be hired because of that. I understand the significance of being an African American, or the second, as you say, at a BCS school. That's a tremendous honor. And I don't look at it as a burden, because people say, well, you know, you're going to be scrutinized more. Well, when you have 7 kids, you're scrutinized all the time, because every decision you make is not always popular with them. Isn't that right, Corbin? He's shaking his head, yes. So, but it's something of, you know, I guess you guys can talk about the historical significance of it. It's something when I'm coaching, I don't even think about that when I'm coaching. The players don't, the coaches don't, because all that matters is how they're playing, how I'm coaching them, and I'll let you guys write about the significance of that. And what was your second question? I'm very satisfied in talking to Craig Littlepage and John Oliver and President Castine that the resources needed to compete at a high level and win have been committed here. That's why I'm here.
What are the resources?
As we just alluded to before about being able to hire a good staff, being able to put some things in place that will enhance the student athlete's overall experience, not just athletically, but also from a social standpoint, from an academic standpoint. And when you can put all those resources together that directly benefit an effective player, then I think you'll see a better result.
Jeff?
Hey, Mike, X's and O's question. You had a lot of success with the 4-3 defense at Richmond. You had inherited really good ends there. Is that the scheme on defense you're most likely to use?
Yes.
Doug?
Yeah, you join a program where the head coach has been his own defensive coordinator, and obviously you were his defensive coordinator before that, but he was very involved in the defense. How much have you split your time, but how have you split your time between the 2 units at Richmond, and just talk about the idea of delegating?
I'm of the belief that you hire good people. You hire good people to do their jobs, and you allow them to do their jobs. And the situation I just came from, I hired good people that did a great job of doing their jobs. Now, it's my job to make sure that they do their jobs, but I was very satisfied in how they were doing it, and as long as the communication, or as long as it was understood that these are the type of things I believe in as regards to the specific schemes of offense and defense and special teams, and imparting that to the coordinators of the style of play, how to utilize our playmakers and things like that. I think that the coaches have an appreciation that when you allow them to coach their players and do the job because they were accountable to you, then you get the desired results, and that's been my experience thus far.
Zach, then Mark, and then the photographers in the room. Mark will be the last question. We'll have Coach London with his family up here real quick for a photo. Zach?
As a follow-up to a previous question, how familiar are you with the current roster from your time coaching and bringing them in? And then part two to that, how far away do you think this program is from where you want it to be?
Well, I've been gone for 2 years, so at least the freshmen now have 2 years under their belts. And then some of the guys, and I was here, some have moved on, some are into their last year. So I'm familiar from that standpoint of being in a lot of their homes and recruiting them. But as I said before, I'm not as familiar since we did not play Virginia this year in terms of the talent level. I mean, that's something I have to catch up on and familiarize myself with that as these next couple of days start to unfold, because it does reflect or affect recruiting and the position needs and all kind of things. So I'd be probably better prepared to answer the latter question in a few days or so. Thanks.
Question for Craig. Could you just elaborate on your communication with Mike on your expectations for this program? Obviously, you have high expectations for success. How do you communicate that to a head coach, and when you expect to see that turnaround?
How do you communicate it is that you communicate it. You speak to it in terms of outlining our department and university goals and expectations, articulating the goals for the football program in particular, not only for the competitive success of the team, but the success and development of the student athletes. We expect for any of our coaches to come to the university with the understanding that they are to bring to the University of Virginia to participate in our programs people that are pursuing the University of Virginia because of the opportunity for a great education and to play in an athletics environment here at the university within the ACC that's second to none. The idea that they're coming to the University of Virginia to earn a degree, get an education, and to win championships. Those goals are the same for all of our sports, so that's what we have spoken about. We haven't shied away from those as being our stated goals. And Coach London comes to the University of Virginia with those expectations. They've been stated verbally. They'll be written. They'll be on the wall. They'll be on his desk. I mean, wherever you want to look, I think there will be evidence of what the goals and expectations are.
Mr. Littlepage, Coach, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, very much.
Thank you.